Over at BangTheBook.com, we are your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information. We unrolled a lot of prop stuff over the weekend. I put up some prop stuff here this morning as well. Tons and tons of stuff going up for Super Bowl 54. Danny Vorgs' very in-depth, very detailed breakdown also went up over the weekend. So make sure you check out all of the NFL betting content over at the new look, BangTheBook.com. But we're still doing daily NBA, college basketball, and NHL. We've got soccer, tennis, UFC, golf. Good golf event this week with the Waste Management Phoenix Open. James Mazzola will have a preview of that. NASCAR is not that far away. Major League Baseball not that far away. Tons of stuff going on over at the website. Make sure you check it all out. Finally, as you know, this and every edition of Bang the Book Radio presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB and the number 200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the Sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. One guest on the program here today, and that is Mr. Kyle Hunter, professional handicapper over at HunterSportsPicks.com and also BetterSportsPicks.com. Kyle, how's it going today, man?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself, Adam?
All right, buddy. Appreciate your time as always here, sir. And you and I had a little bit of a discussion last night trying to figure out if we want to spend some time talking about Kobe Bryant here on today's show. And certainly it feels like it's only right to talk about everything that happened here over the weekend, his life, his legacy. A lot of people who are much better with words than I am saying a lot of great things about Kobe. But I guess, it's a good place to start here on today's show with the tragic news that came about over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really sad in every way. I was really struck when I saw that news yesterday that, a guy who was such an icon, such a top-notch basketball player, one of the best players of all time, that really, it wasn't very long ago that he was playing and that he was playing at a really high level. And then, he has his daughters, and one of his daughters passes away with him. I mean, just really sad, going back and seeing the videos of him talking about his daughters and where they were going to go in their life. And I know that he was really proud of his family, proud of his daughters. And, that's what really strikes me the most, just that not only was he a great NBA player, but, more importantly, he had that family around him. And now, you've got the daughters who don't have a dad and a wife who doesn't have a husband at this point. So I think that's really far more important than what his basketball legacy is.
Yeah, most definitely. And, I kind of mentioned this in the intro to my situational betting article this week that, the prime of Kobe Bryant's career has been over for a while. I mean, the retirement tour, at times it was kind of sad. He was just out there trying to pad as much statistics as he could. But the prime of his life was just starting. He was making up for that lost time with his wife, Vanessa, with his children. Of course, had the baby who was born about a year or so ago. And of course, being a teacher and a mentor to Gianna, who was with him, when he passed away, with, all the travel basketball, with really molding her into the player that she was becoming. And it's really sad to see that future taken away here. But that's the thing, now he was in the prime of his life, being a dad, being a husband, and you see all the stuff that came out from players across all of the major sports. Obviously, a lot of NBA guys played with him or idolized him growing up. And I'm sure people like you and I even idolized him growing up. I'm a chubby white kid from the Cleveland area. I've got a Kobe Bryant jersey. I'm sure a lot of kids did. And, you just see that everybody kind of knows everybody in the world of pro sports, and everybody understands the lifestyle and the sacrifices. And I think that's the saddest part of all of this, is that everything that he missed, being out on the road, being this representative for the NBA, being representative for USA basketball in the Olympics and in some of the other tournaments that they played in, all that stuff he missed at home. And, he was on a path to making up for that time, to doing things with each one of his daughters, doing things with friends and family. And all of that just gets taken away in an instant. And that's, to me, the saddest part of all of this. What he meant to the NBA is one thing. What he meant to his loved ones and his friends and family, that's another thing. And that's where I think that the real sadness of this whole tragedy comes into play.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, as you said, when you're an NBA pro for that long, your life is extremely hectic there for a long time. And he was only 41 years old and was getting to do the things that he really wanted to do now. And he was a very intelligent person, was good with words, was able to express himself well. He had a good, business lifestyle about himself too. It wasn't just NBA player. He understood how things worked. He was really well loved throughout the world, not just the country here. So, certainly, it's hard to think of anything similar that's happened, in any kind of recent year. And like you and I were talking beforehand, certainly, especially in this era of social media. So, it's sad all the way around. It to me, it makes you think about the fact that, you never know when things will be cut short for yourself, or whether you'll have that full life or not. And certainly another reason to, tell somebody you love them, be with your loved ones, and actually, be able to enjoy yourself and have a good time.
And that's the thing here too, in this 24/7 news cycle. And, like you said, we don't have, any sort of frame of reference with this. I mean, you talk about something like Dale Earnhardt, that was before the social media generation, people getting their news from Sports Center or whatever else. Obviously Roberto Clemente and the tragic way that he died. Thurman Munson, another one. We've got some historical sports figures, but I don't know if we really have any kind of comparison to this, where, it was a 41-year-old who was just done playing in this 24/7 news cycle, this social media generation. And, his family probably even found out through social media with TMZ, reporting the news and getting to it before the authorities could tell them. And, it's just, there's so many different layers of sadness to this. And, Kobe and his daughter weren't the only people on that helicopter. There was a pilot who had a family. There was, John Altobelli, the baseball coach, who, he had a long string of friends and acquaintances and colleagues. And of course, his wife and his daughter on this ill-fated helicopter. And then another mother and daughter on this helicopter. And, you see a lot of this here on Twitter and on Facebook and Instagram and all that about, life can be gone in an instant. Live your life to the fullest. Tell your loved ones, that you love them and that you appreciate them. And it comes from something like this, a large scale, basically worldwide loss of somebody like Kobe Bryant. But every single day, somebody that means something to somebody is dying in some sort of tragic way. And when you get one of this magnitude like Kobe, everyone comes out and says these types of sentiments. But, I personally, just seeing everything that's gone on in the world, seeing, the different shootings, like the Las Vegas concert shooting and all that, I have tried to make a concerted effort to tell those people I appreciate them as often as I can, to express what they mean to me, and also to do everything that I want to do. If I want to travel and go see something and I can make it happen, I'm going to do it. If I want to have this experience, I'm going to do it if I have the opportunity to do that. And I think that, again, we talk about a 41-year-old man with a wife and a family. And I don't have any children. I am married. But think of all those regrets. Think of all those things that you wish you could have done. So anytime one of these tragic things happens, everyone comes out and says these sentiments. But to me, I think it all the time. I'm very aware that at any moment, it could all be over for me or somebody I love. And, there's nothing you can do after that. So to everybody out there, I mean, tell people you love them. Tell people you appreciate them. Tell people you respect them. And go out there and do the things that you want to do, because ultimately we're here for a finite period of time, and we don't know when that last moment, that last day is. So do everything you can and live life to the fullest to any possible extent that you can.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to finish on, is that, a lot of people are going to say that now, and we're going to hear that for the next couple of days, but it's still going to be true, weeks from now, months from now, years from now, that, we never know. So you do the best you can to let people know you appreciate them, you love them, and, make the most of it, because, we never know when it's going to be our time. So, this is a really sad occurrence. The fact that, like you said, Kobe and his daughter weren't the only ones on that helicopter either. And I'm certainly sad for everybody that lost loved ones there. And it's just it's a good reminder of how short life can be and how difficult and rough things can happen to anybody, So certainly his legacy will carry on for many years, and this will be something that people will talk about for many years. It's just sad all the way around.
Yeah, it really is. And again, it's kind of amazing too that, I mean, I didn't know Kobe Bryant. I can't imagine you ever met Kobe Bryant.
No.
But there are millions of people out there just deeply affected by the death of somebody that, they only knew from television or from watching him or from growing up wanting to be him, and it's just, it's a sad state of affairs all around for everybody that died, and for everybody for all these personal tragedies that continue every single day. So, again, I implore everybody out there to let the people that you love know that you love them, and to try and do everything that you want to do, everything that you can do while you have the opportunity to do it. Like I said, it's not an easy transition away from something like that, but Kyle, you and I are going to talk here about Super Bowl 54, San Francisco and Kansas City. Super Bowl week is finally here. And with that, we've seen next to no line movement. Still -1 or -1.5. Total still 54.5 out there for the most part. Not a whole lot going on here when you talk about side and total.
No, not at all. I think that it just shows how sharp the line was to start with. I guess if anything, the total might have moved up a little bit since last Monday, but maybe half a point or something like that. So the side is exactly where it was last time we talked, and the numbers look about like they did last week. 55% of the bets, 59% of the bets on the Chiefs, and 55% of the money. 82% of the bets on the over, and 88% of the money on the over. And that's a big thing that I've been hearing from quite a few people, is that it's just hard to find anybody who wants an under in this game. And you wonder how high this number will go before there may be some buyback on the under. But the public doesn't want to take the under here. So I don't think if you like the over, I don't think you want to wait.
Well, and of course, now finally the teams arriving. I believe on Sunday night, both teams arrived down to Miami. So now we're going to start to get some of those sound bites. We're going to start to get all those interviews and all that different type of stuff. We're going to start to get a better idea of, some of the injured players that are hoping to participate in this game. But also, too, I think something that's really difficult here is that, now these teams are practicing and going through walkthroughs in a different environment. They're dealing with all the additional media scrutiny. And, it's been proven before in basically all sports that, playoff experience doesn't really matter. Good players are still going to be good players over a big enough sample size, or the sample sizes just really aren't large enough to make a determination. But when you look at these two teams, I mean, there's not much experience this deep into the playoffs on either roster. Obviously, Richard Sherman for San Francisco, a name that stands out the most. Maybe Andy Reid a little bit more equipped for this type of thing than Kyle Shanahan is. Maybe Steve Spagnuolo, who obviously, has some experience in the Super Bowl. Maybe he's a little bit better equipped for all of this. But, by and large, I mean, these two teams are on equal footing with trying to practice a long way from home in a foreign environment, and then also dealing with all this media stuff. So, those distractions probably have both of these teams on an even playing field.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think that you can say that either side has a big advantage in that. I think that this is a very unique Super Bowl in that these two teams are both very good teams. They're different as far as, what their strengths and weaknesses are, but they're both very good teams. And I think the line is pretty fair here. I will make a bet here on the Super Bowl, largely because, everybody wants me to make a bet on the Super Bowl. But I don't think there's any huge edge to be had here. I think that there probably is better value by looking for first half, second half props, things like that. I do want to say that while it makes you kind of sound like a hero or something like that, if you're betting a lot of money on the Super Bowl, and some people like to brag about that, I would really caution people about doing something like that, because, even in the NFL, where the market is very efficient throughout the course of the season, on a normal Sunday, you're still going to find a lot better values than what you're able to find here in the Super Bowl, just in the game line. So be careful about putting too much money on this one.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen some people that I think are pretty smart kind of suggest the first half under. Again, Kansas City's been a slow starter here in their first two playoff games. Again, both of these teams, as I just mentioned, not a whole lot of experience on this type of stage. And really when you look at a lot of the primary guys here, not a whole lot of experience in terms of big time stages in college either. So, there probably will be some nerves, will be a feeling out process for this one. So I have seen some people I respect kind of looking at that first half under a little bit. You look at, what's going on here just overall. It's Kansas City on the spread. It's San Francisco on the cheap plus money line. And then the over getting a lot of play. People will say, well, why isn't the over going up higher? Well, because there could very well be some sharper money on the under once this thing peaks as we get later into the week, once we see a weather forecast. But ultimately, man, I kind of look at this game and I don't see much movement in the lead up to kickoff either. I think maybe Kansas City 1.5, maybe touches 2 some places, but all that's going to do is entice more buyback on the San Francisco money line at a better price. So I don't think this side moves much at all as we go into Sunday. I think the total may kind of gravitate back down to 54, maybe 53.5 if the money is that sharp, but I don't see much movement here over the next 6 days either.
No, I don't either. I think that maybe you get a total move up to 55 and then kind of come back down. 55 is a pretty important number in the NFL. So I don't think it could go above 55 without getting some decent buyback. So if you see a 55, you like the under, 55.5 maybe. But I don't think this one gets to 56. It would be a surprise, although certainly there's a lot of public money on the Super Bowl. So I could be wrong about that. I don't have a strong feeling here for the total in this one. I don't blame people who took over 51.5 when it opened. I think that made a lot of sense. But at this point, pretty good number there. The side, like you said, I mean, we've got Chiefs against the spread money and then 49ers money line money. I don't think that's going to change. Like you said, I think if you move up the Chiefs number to -2 and get a better money line price, I think people are just going to take the 49ers. So I think we'll see a lot of the same the rest of the week.
So I'm obviously going to have a lot of segments to talk Super Bowl here on the show. So I'm going to have to kind of spread my prop bets out a little bit. But you and I were talking here this morning and kind of going over some of these things over the weekend here. I'll share a few on today's segment. I know you'll have a couple to share as well. And I'll be sharing some of my additional thoughts as we go throughout the week. But first and foremost, as you're kind of handicapping this prop market here, Kyle, before we get into any specific ones that we like, it is overwhelming, man. I mean, with college basketball, I'm working on my MLB guide. There's still a lot of different markets going on. These things are everywhere, and there's a ton of them, and they're not organized particularly well at a lot of the offshores. It is a lot to try and dive into these.
It really is. And something that you've mentioned in the past too, is there's different wording at different books. So you have to be careful about that because, you may think that you're getting maybe an arbitrage bet or something like that from two different places, but they're worded differently. So be really careful about something like that. I think that it's kind of overwhelming when you look at all the prop bets that are available at one place compared to another. And there can be some very different lines. So this is definitely a really good time to shop around for the best line. That can be extremely important in this kind of instance. I think that, what you think about the game, if you think that it's going to go over the total, or if you think it's going to go under the total, or if you think a certain side is going to do well, certainly would make you think a certain way when it comes to these prop bets, because, you want to know what the flow of the game's going to be. Do you think there's going to be a lot of passing in the game? Do you think some teams are going to try to run it a little bit more? So even if you don't want to make a bet on the game itself, I think you do have to handicap the game itself in order to know what you like as far as these props.
Yeah, and I think it's important too. There are a lot of different strategies here, but some people, let's say you like Kansas City. Some people are going to load up on Kansas City over props because, you already like the Chiefs in the game. If you like San Francisco, you may load up on some San Francisco props. But I think what you really want to look to do is, you want to have some correlation to be sure. But if you like Kansas City, you think Kansas City is going to have the football a lot, rather than try to figure out, will it be Damian Williams? Will it be Tyreek Hill? Will it be Sammy Watkins? Play some San Francisco defensive player props over. Or, maybe Kansas City first downs over. Something like that, to the point where you don't expose yourself too much on one side, and you wind up doing things that can win both ways. Maybe San Francisco wins the game, but maybe Kansas City does kind of win the box score, or some of those defensive players do have a big game. Don't set yourself up for a risk of ruin just playing everything all on one side, all in correlation together. You want to spread this out a little bit too, to the point where if the game doesn't go the way you expect it to, you don't wind up with a massive loss when it's all said and done.
Yeah, true, definitely. And if you think Kansas City will have the ball a lot, you could also play some Kansas City defense unders. So, I think that you're pretty risky if you want to play a ton of overs in these prop markets, because everybody likes to play the overs. And I know I've heard some other people talk about it, some bookmakers, that, it's hard to find people who want to bet player props under. And that usually tells me that it's probably the better move to have more unders than overs. You don't want to be on the side that they have to inflate the price because they know that over money will come in. And at this point, Super Bowl props are a lot different than the average props for a random game on a Saturday in college football or college basketball one or something like that. There's a lot of people betting these props. So at this point, it's not a little known thing to be betting Super Bowl props.
No, definitely not. I mean, there is a lot of money and a lot of movement on these. And I like what you mentioned too, that, you've got to shop around. Excuse me. You've got to shop around. Why take Mahomes over, I don't know what the number is exactly, but why take Mahomes over 317 yards when you can get over 314 somewhere else? The chances of that, causing you to lose a bet are small. But again, you want to get the best price that you possibly can. You will find some arbitrage opportunities. You will find some middle opportunities as well. They're not nearly as frequent as they used to be, with a lot of books just kind of copying from each other. But that did used to be out there. So, do your due diligence, shop around at all the different outs that you have. If you're in a state like New Jersey or something like that, get as many of those apps as you can so that you can shop around for the best lines, the best prices. If you could take minus 110 instead of minus 115 or minus 120, I mean, long term, that's a huge benefit to you. So even if it's not something as obvious as a difference of 3 or 4 yards or half a reception, something like that, the juice on these things makes a big difference too.
The juice makes a really big difference. And that was going to be one of the points that I made, was that some people just want to get the best number on a yard. Say, well, I'll use the same example like you did. If it was, Mahomes over 315 and Mahomes over 316, you don't want to pay minus 140 on over 315 if you can get minus 105 on 316. And I know some people, well, it's only going to matter if it loses, and this one's not going to lose. If you make too many bets thinking that way, you're definitely going to be a long-term loser. So you want to get the best number you can, as long as the price is a reasonable price. So certainly be very mindful of the price as well.
All right, so with that in mind here, what are some of the things that you've kind of keyed in on? And obviously, we still have 6 days until the game, so a lot of time for both of us to think about this. I know you and I will be doing a lot more personal prop betting here and digging and looking as the week goes along. But some of your early impressions here as we start this week.
Yeah, I only have a couple here that I like quite a bit. I'm going to take Damian Williams rushing yards over 50.5. The 49ers pass defense is very good. Clearly the strength of the defense, no doubt about that. Obviously a very good pass rush as well. So if you want to try to neutralize that pass rush and keep them honest, you have to be able to run the football. I think Kansas City has really picked up their usage here of the running game in recent games, and I think that's likely to continue here. I think the 49ers pass defense is so good. Their run defense, at least relative to the pass defense, is not very good. Kansas City rushing game is not tremendous, but I do think over 50.5 is a pretty good price here on Williams. If you think he's going to get, 16 carries or something like that, or 17 carries, over 50.5 is a pretty reasonable price, especially because the Chiefs have a lot of guys that can beat you deep. And obviously Mahomes is tremendous. You can't be playing for the run very well here. It's very likely that he could bust a run of 10 or 15 yards at some point in this game based on the type of defense that the 49ers will have to play.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. And I kind of like Damian Williams to be a focal point of the Chiefs offense here. I'm kind of waiting to see what a rushing plus receiving yards prop looks like with him. Because when you think about that pass rush for San Francisco, they rush 4. So you don't really have to help out too much in pass pro by keeping a running back there. You're not seeing a whole lot of linebackers coming through. You're not seeing a whole lot of corner blitzes, anything like that. So what that's going to do is allow Williams to get out in the flat as a receiver. So I think he winds up getting a lot of touches in this game, both on the ground and also through the air with some dump offs, some safety valve type stuff. Maybe Mahomes. And we saw Mahomes kind of improvise a little bit with some of his plays to Travis Kelce in a couple of these playoff games. Just sort of getting out of the pocket, just kind of flipping the ball to him, something like that. I could see Williams kind of being the benefactor of some of those. So I do think Williams is a big part of the equation, and I think that there are a lot of different ways to look at him too.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that, pass receptions is at about 4. I think, pass receptions, receiving yards and rushing yards would probably be in the 80s. And I would lean to the over in that one as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing 29.5 for receiving yards here, right? And again, like you said, how many of these does he need? How much volume does he need to break off a few big plays here? Well, I guess we'll kind of wait and see how that one sort of comes together. One that I was looking at here, this is a game prop. So you were looking at a player prop. I'm looking at a game prop here. I'm looking at no 2-point conversion attempt. And I see this is about minus 140, minus 150 out there in the marketplace. These two teams only missed 4 extra points combined during the regular season. I believe San Francisco missed 1 and Kansas City missed 3. So not a whole lot of 2-point conversion tries. I think there were 7 of them combined between the two teams. But even if you get a missed PAT here in this one, it doesn't necessarily mean you need a 2-point conversion. So, again, a lot of times the minus is going to have the value here because you talk about the most recent Super Bowls, we had an overtime. We had a safety. We've gotten successful 2-point conversions, stuff like that. I don't know if we're going to need one in this game. Both of these kickers pretty reliable on the extra points. And again, we may not even need one based on how the scoring shakes out for the game. So I think no 2-point conversion attempt, minus 140, minus 150 is one I do like.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable juice there. Both of these kickers are very reliable. There's plenty of kickers in the NFL that you could point out as being questionable kickers. These aren't them. These are good kickers. Shanahan is probably a little bit more aggressive than some coaches. Reed's certainly more conservative than most coaches. I don't think a 2-point conversion is terribly likely. Obviously, if the game plays out a little bit differently to where one team's way behind or something, then it becomes more likely. But I think that's pretty reasonable juice on something like that.
Well, and again, you kind of think about it from a, price versus percentage standpoint. That's something you do want to think about a little bit here with some of these props. Minus 140, which is out there at 5 dimes right now, that implies about 58.33% that we don't have a 2-point conversion attempt. If they played this game 10 times, you think 4 of them would have a 2-point conversion? I don't know. A 2-point conversion attempt. Doesn't have to be a successful attempt, just an attempt in general. I think that that's probably a very reasonable price there, especially when you consider, over the 32 regular season games that these two teams played, 7 combined, 5 for the 49ers. So that's one I kind of have my eye on a little bit. I know you've got kind of more of a creative prop that you're looking at here for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I like this one a good amount, actually. First score touchdown, and Bernie Sanders wins New Hampshire primary. Now, I don't want to get political. I don't like politics. I do like elections. We've talked about this before, and I think there's ways to make money on that. But first score touchdown by itself is around minus 180 most places. So you're getting plus 125 here with the first score touchdown and Bernie Sanders win the New Hampshire primary. This is on 5 dimes at plus 125. This is a good value, really good value. I'm confident Sanders will win the New Hampshire primary. So, how much do I love first score as a touchdown? I don't really like it at minus 180, but I like it a lot at plus 125 when you take in Bernie Sanders to win New Hampshire. And he's ahead by about 10 points in most of the polls. So I think it's very likely he wins the New Hampshire primary. So now we're looking, what's first score touchdown? Well, you go from minus 180 to plus 125. That's a pretty big change. And I think that's a good plus price value there.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's really good. And as I look here over at 5 dimes, Bernie Sanders to win the New Hampshire primary is minus 320 on its own. So you're getting the plus 120 price for something that's very likely to happen with him winning that primary. And then, of course, you've got the first score touchdown, which you would need to come through. But again, you're really sweetening the price there with something that's very, very likely in the state of New Hampshire. So I do like that one. Again, lots of creative stuff. There are cross-sport props. There are a lot of entertainment props, all that type of thing. So a lot of things you can take a look at here. One other real quick one for me, because I want to make sure we get ample time for college basketball. I'm looking at over 5.5 kick returns. That's in the plus 150 range, plus 155 actually at 5 dimes, plus 135 over at BetDSI. Only about half of San Francisco's kickoffs went for touchbacks during the season, and Kansas City is very aggressive in the return game. They want to take chances. They feel like they can use their speed to their advantage. So even if Wisnowski gets it a yard or two deep into the end zone, Kansas City's probably going to bring it out. So this guy doesn't have a great leg to begin with for touchbacks. And if it's a yard, 2, maybe 3 yards deep, Kansas City very likely to bring that back out. Kansas City allowed 37 kick returns, tied for the 7th most in the NFL, 60 touchbacks and 98 tries for Harrison Butker. I think Kansas City gets us a good bit of the way to over 5.5. San Francisco should have a kick return or two themselves. So I think this is one that's got some pretty good value here, plus 155 or the plus 135 if you're not posted up at 5 dimes.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done much work on this one myself, but I think what you say makes sense. I know Kansas City's pretty aggressive in that, and neither of these kickers, just blasted out of the back of the end zone consistently like some of the kickers would. So I think that one makes some sense, especially at that good plus money price.
All right, so we mentioned at the top of the show here that Kyle Hunter is available over at huntersportspicks.com, but also at bettersportspicks.com, where I'm sure you'll be posting your Super Bowl prop bets.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing some work with Super Bowl prop bets here, also posting some other leans, things that almost made the card but didn't quite make the card there at bettersportspicks.com. You can sign up for the free members area there at bettersportspicks.com. You'll receive all the free information. You can also sign up for the newsletter there as well. No purchase necessary at all. I'll be posting, like I said, leans that didn't quite make the card in other sports, not just the Super Bowl, and also some prop bet thoughts. I do have a surgery coming up here later this week, so I don't know how many articles I'll be able to put together here for the Super Bowl, but I'll put something up there on bettersportspicks.com. And then also in the future, as we go through the rest of college basketball season, the NBA, things like that, you're going to be getting lots of free information from that website.
Well, and with that in mind, certainly wish you the best with that operation you have coming up. We're not going to do a show next Monday. It is the day after the Super Bowl for one thing, but also I know Kyle will still be recovering, and most of us will be recovering from what I'm sure will be a long night with the Super Bowl. So no show next Monday. We'll be back on in a couple of weeks' time here with our segments with Kyle Hunter, where at that point in time,